if you've been following this series from the start, we established that the code works, but it's a little too long. So I want to break it down using functions. And so remember, I said part of what we'll do today is to teach you how to work with things like functions, arrays, loops, conditionals. So far, we've already been working with conditionals, and now it's time to work with functions. Conditionals and loop, we've been working with them and we'll continue. But it's time to introduce functions into the play. Now, functions is very, very important for our code. And why is functions this important? Remember the definition of functions. It helps you break down large code into smaller parts. The main function itself is a function, right? And we've been writing everything inside the main function, but now I want to break it down into small parts. Before you start going to create function, go back to your pseudocode thought process. It all starts and ends there. And so let's go back there. Remember, why are we doing this? Not because the code is not working, but we want to make it better. The act of making it better is something that you always, always, always want to make sure you're doing as a software developer. Make your code better. We'll go now and we'll start looking at the pseudocode that can help us get the functions we need. All right, so I will now change my step 4 to be create functions for all the options a, a user can choose. Now, what are the options a user can choose? You can see the options: transfer money, deposit money, check balance. We want to create functions for all of them, but it doesn't end there. Looking back at our code, the one on GitHub, so you already have the GitHub link. The link is down below. If you check the comment of the video, you're going to see the link on YouTube here. And if you already have it, Bwave ICT, just go to our GitHub channel. As you're going there, please remember to follow GitHub, Bwave ICT GitHub account. You can also follow my Twitter handle, Bwave ICT1, and I'm also on LinkedIn. You can follow me everywhere there. Let's have fun. On Facebook, these are social media platforms. Make sure you follow us everywhere. Now, want to create the function. So far, we've done some things already. Let's analyze the functions we'll need. So some kind of the functions we'll need, let's just say functions here. And what are the functions we are going to need? When we say functions, what are components that our code would need so far? So let's say the first thing that the user will do once the user come is to the welcome message, right? Welcome message. Do we need to create a function for the welcome message? What do you think? Let's go and see the welcome message to know if we should create a function for it or not. So I'm going to go back to my Ubuntu now, and let's just veer into my bank.c. Let's see the welcome message in the first place. So you can, what's our welcome message? Our welcome message is simple. It's just welcome to my bank. Banking has been made easy. Do we need to create a function for this? No. Why? Because function, remember the definition of what function does. Functions in your code helps your code to be small, compactable, right? So that it will not be bulky. And then functions help with reusability. How many times do I want to greet these people? Just once, the first time they are here. So would I reuse this code? No. So I don't need to create functions because no reusability. And then this code is very small. But what's the next thing? After greeting the person, what's the next thing? The person wants to create an account. And this create account involves getting the person's name, right? Involves getting the person's name. So creating accounts would be our first function. So we don't need welcome message for our function. So here we are going to say on our thought process, we are going to say create accounts would be our first function. Why? Because we want to make sure that the user can create accounts. So create accounts would be our first function. If you open your On Notepad now, you see I've written as my first function would be to create accounts. Go back to your Ubuntu. What's going to be our second function? All right, so we have this whole password validation thing that's very long here. We have char pass, val 20, int value, very, very many. Do you see where our second function would be now? This validate password. So all of these things that we are doing here falls under the validate password. We want to create it as a function too. So our second function for the day would be the validate password. All right, so it's time to go now, write the validate password as our second function. So function 2 would be to validate password. That would be our second function for the day that we've done. And then what would be our third function? So before we talk about our third function, let's first create a function for these two things. So how are we going to create a function? We are going to create another file and we are going to create our functions there. Another file. We will now link all of them to our main file. That's how we are going to create our functions. I hope this makes sense to you now because we are about to start. So while doing that, okay, let's do that first off. So let's go back to writing our codes and back to our Ubuntu terminal. So for this one, I'm going to create another file. I can decide to do this in my bank.c, but I'm not going to do it in my bank.c. Instead, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new branch. So what's a branch in GitHub? Now, this reminds you, I said today we are going to use GitHub like a pro. Use GitHub in a way that you can get offers from companies for software engineering positions. So what's a branch? A branch is a copy of your project that you use to make changes. We are going to make changes in a copy of our project, and then after that, at the end of the day, maybe we'll pull it to our main branch. So this branch, I'm going to create it now. And how do you create a branch in GitHub? We create a branch in GitHub using the git checkout command, right? So we want to create a branch using the git checkout command. Git checkout -b, and that would create a new branch for us. So git checkout -b, and what's the name of our branch? I'm going to call this branch functions. All right, now if I type git branch on my screen, you're going to see that we have functions and we have main. Inside functions, you're going to still have this my bank.c. Now inside this one, I can now split in my code. If you see where it is now, it's in a branch called git branch functions. So inside here, I can now like split in this thing. So do this. It's very important. Create branches for your project. At the end of the day, when you're done, you can merge them together, and I'll show you how to do all of that. So yeah, I want to veer into my bank.c. Now, this pattern of teaching is something you won't find anywhere. Most of our instructors, I personally spent hundreds and even in fact it's numbered into thousands of dollars getting this info from various sources, getting this knowledge. At the end of the day, combining everything together, I'm giving you all this for absolutely free. The least you can do, and it would mean a lot to me to thank me, is to subscribe to this YouTube channel and help me share my video to everyone. You could also join our software engineering class if you want to learn software engineering like a pro. Okay, so here I'm going to split all this code now. The very first function we want to create is this one that will, remember the first function we said we are creating. Still remember it, create account. So we want to create account as our first function of the day. Create account, and this is the code to create account. I'm going to copy this code here, and after which we are going to remove this code from our main function. Now that's how to do it so that this main function will not look, so big. So we are going to remove this create account here and create a file to do just that. So what we have is a simple printing message. I've copied and removed it. And now where would I create this function? I'm going to call it by the name. So vi create accounts. So here I would include stdio.h. Include stdio.h. Now this is something called the user defined function. This function is going to be a void function. And what's the name? Create accounts. So here I can use the create account function, and then that code I copied, I will just paste it in here, and at the end of the day, indents. Now the create account function is here. You know why these functions are extremely important? When your codes get too long in one place, it becomes very difficult for people to read. So to solve that, you want to create functions, and that would automatically solve the problem for you. Here do I have my, okay. Now I'm including stdio. I'm including another header file called bwave.h. I will show you why I'm including that header file. But for now, we've put the void create account. Okay, so what's the next function? Let's go to my bank.c. What's the next function we want to do? The next function we want to do is the password side of things, right? The password side of things. And well, what do I do with the password? I'm going to copy everything so I have in the password side of things. So I'm going to like copy everything from the password side and then just delete them off here too. Now to copy it would be, this Ubuntu to copy would have to be it is a little stressful though. It is a little stressful. So let's go ahead and let me just copy it. Great. So as you see on the screen, currently I've copied my password, but I've not pasted it in the other file. So let me go and create a file for the validate or the password. So if I list out what I have, you can see the first function we created, create account. The second function we are going to create is this one called validate password. So I'm going to, because it does validate the password, .c here, all of them must be .c files, and I can just paste in what I copied. If I do that, let me just good. Now I've indented my code after pasting. So the what was there before is there now. But now this time around, I included my stdio.h to be able to compare password. We are using this string compare function, and I explained before, if you still remember, that we're getting it from the string.h header file. That's why it's there. Now this bwave.h, what are we using it to do? I will soon tell you. It's not for fancy. But this function is not a void function. First create account was a void function. This one returns an integer. So the return type of this function is an integer. And this function has a parameter of a constant character pointer of password. Now you're seeing pointers, and one may ask, hey, I have problems with pointers. Today you would explain pointers. And yes, today I would explain pointers again, because I already have a video that explains pointers on this channel. I would explain it again now with this example. First of all, what is this const? Const means constant. When you set your first password 1234, it is constant. You cannot edit that first password. Your confirm password must match with that first password, that constant password. That's why I'm setting here to constant. Then you have your character pointer. So what is this one going to do again? Don't get confused at all. This code here is going to access the location of the password. It would help compare. Okay, so this pointer, pointer goes to the memory address. This password is a constant. You've typed 1234, that constant is there. The pointer now is going to look at it and say, okay, the second input that is coming, the pointer is going to look at the memory address, the value at the memory of password, right? The value stored at the address of password, and is going to ensure that that value is the same with your second password, and it's going to return what we want for us. So that's why we have this here, not something big at all. So yeah, we basically the same thing. If your password don't match, it should say try again. Your password does not match, and then if it's match, it should just let us go for free. So yeah, am I missing something? Let me remove most of these new lines. No need to put this great one more step. Your password should be validated. So let me remove this line of code. So it's basically the same thing. This is okay, fine. So this one returns an integer. So it's going to return 1 if the password validation at the end of the day was successful. It's going to return 0 if the password validation failed. And all the codes are the same thing. If it's successful, it's going to return 1 for your password validation. So these are codes I've explained before, but now we are creating functions in other files to do the same thing. Okay, so let's go ahead. Now we've created two functions here, validate password and create accounts. The next thing we want to do is to create something I've been calling, and that is bwave.h. So bwave.h is our header file. In this header file, what are we going to do? We are going to define the prototypes for the password, for the functions. When we have functions, we have declaration, definition, and function calling. Then we have function prototype. Already learning things from this short video. Imagine what you would learn from Bwave ICT for the period of 6 months to 1 year of extensive training and learning to work as software engineers remotely. Well, whereas at Bwave ICT, we've rolled out a fantastic program to help you learn and become a competent software engineer that would have nothing lacking in the next 6 months to 1 year with our 1 year program, which is 6 months internship and 6 months of normal learning. We would see you in class because the class is starting on June 5th, 2023. If you want to be part of it, send a message now to the link below. Send a message to our WhatsApp number and we will reply you immediately telling you how you can be part of this life-changing software engineering experience. We don't want you to miss this and you surely will not miss it. See you in class. Function prototype, as just as the word says, like a prototype. Just a small thing to hint you that there's a function that would be used later on. So to call a header file here, we do the if ndef and then just say what's the name of the header file. So bwave.h here, and then define bwave underscore h. And at the end of the day, we want to do the end if. Okay. Now, what are the functions we have called so far? I think we've done the void create account, and that's just a void function with no parameter, no return type. The next one was the int validate. So password that we just created just now, that function, int validate password. and it takes in a parameter of a constant character. Now, when we are saying parameter, when you define function, like if you do printf, let me just do printf, and you put hello world. You see this hello world here? It is the parameter that printf takes in. That is what you will type inside the function if you're typing anything. So this hello world is like the parameter inside. Okay. So but for this validate password, we create account, no parameters. Just go ahead, put your name and then just call it. But in the validate password, we'll be putting the password. So these are the two functions for now, and I'm going to end it here. Great. So we have bwave.h, create account, my bank, and the rest. So this is our header file. Our header file stores all the prototype. Create account.c, validate password.c, and here we have our two functions. Gotten. So let's go into my bank.c. Now that we've started splitting out things, what would we do in my bank.c? The only thing I would include here is now the header file where those functions are called. So what's the name of the header file where those functions are called? Bwave.h. And that's it. So I've included my header file. It means I don't need this string.h again because I've removed the function that had it. Now in the int main, we have the char option and double balance here. And that's okay. Now greeting message, welcome to my bank. After that, we want to call our first function, which is the create account. So this is where it gets interesting now. So to create account, rather than for us to write the printf scanf, what do we just do? Create account. That's all we'll do. We'll call the function like this. Once the code sees it, it will go to the bwave.h, look at the function prototype, then go to the create account file and call it for us. The next function we want to call now is the password. So here we'll be setting variables and say 20. Remember, the second function we did was to validate password. So here, let's say int password correct equal to 0. I've explained this side before, hope you remember. So printf enter your password. And at this time now, well, let's call our function that we created, which was password, the password correct, the validate password function. Let's use it now, validate password. And the parameter we want to pass into it is password. So we should have had a scanf here, yes. So scanf and then %s with password. Now, just as I explained before, remember that in this validate password, we had one parameter, and I said parameter is just the thing inside of it. So this is it, password. If you go to the back to the file now, let's just go back there. Let me show you. If you go back to the validate password, you saw a constant character, right? Password. Now we are using that thing we called in here by saying password. And where do you get the password from? Enter your password in the scanf here, password. So with this, that's all. Here the user is going to enter his password, and the next thing we'll do, we'll check, you'll use our validate password. We'll call the function on this password. It will take care of the rest for us, just like that. Then here, We can now just focus on our main program at the end of the day. We've called our first two functions. Do you have any questions with this so far? You want to ask questions. Now, if you are coding along with this and you are stopped at any point, don't worry, I've said it 1,000 times. That is why we have GitHub. The accurate code step by step would be on GitHub. So I'm going to, that's why I created a new branch for this one. This one is going to be a separate branch from the first one. So if you're having problems here, check out the first branch, where the main one, the first part of this video before we went on our break. Check it to see that you are rectified. Any more questions? We are just one message away from answering your questions. Drop your message in the comment section here. Any questions about this video, drop it in the comment section. And then if you want to register to join our intensive course for 6 months plus 6 months internship, something that's not being offered anywhere, then just send a message to our WhatsApp line. I will be happy to welcome you. That being said, now that we've started changing things here, it's a good idea to check out, to run our program and see if it works or if we are just. Now, this is one place where I get a lot of questions. I get a lot of, hey, Bwave, what's next here? Pay attention to how we are going to run this code. So far, how many files do we have? We have this mybank.c, we have validate password, we have create accounts, and then we have bwave.h. Bwave.h is our header file. You will not run only mybank.c now after writing this function. If you do that, what are you going to have? Undefined reference to create accounts and undefined reference to validate password. It is saying you made an undefined reference. That is, the reference is there. It understands your reference. But why are you not calling validate password? What is validate password? You are calling validate password, but it doesn't know what is inside validate password. That's what this error means. And error reading is something very important, because whether it's in C or in Python or in JavaScript, anywhere you are going to have errors and you must read it to be a successful programmer. Error reading is something we'll be talking about a lot during the 6 months to 1 year course.
The idea of learning tech seems like a very difficult thing to some people. Well, at Bwave, we don't blame them, because most of the times tech teachers don't teach. What they do is sit down, give you series of assignment and tasks with lots of conditions and expect that somehow you're going to know it. How? I don't know. At Bwave, it's not like that. We are here to teach you, guide you, then give you assignments that will teach you even more. And if you don't get it, give you corrections that will help you know even more until you learn it. In that way, learning tech becomes easy for the next 6 months, starting from June 5th till December. And then for a 6 months internship, we are going to be doing this: teach you, guide you, mentor you, so that you become a competent software engineer. And guess what? Would be working with companies looking for people locally and internationally, so that if you fit into the description after our training, you don't have struggles looking or searching for a job. If this makes sense to you, then send a message now to join our software engineering program starting from June 5th, 2023. Hurry, there's no time, and we don't want you to miss out on this.
So, how do we solve this problem? When you're running this code, you are going to compile everything. So we compile create accounts like this, gcc create account.c. Then we'll compile the validate password. Those two functions that we created and called in other files, we'll compile them together with the mybank.c. Then we can set our output file to be bank. And once you do this, you're not going to have that error again. So you see, it's very, very easy. Then now we can run the bank. And if we run the bank, it says, hello, welcome to my bank. With us, banking has been made easy. That's greeting. Please create an account. You see that function we call, that create account function? It's now here. So what's your first name? Let's say Bright, and then last name is Bwave. Enter your password. Enter your password is now the 1234. re-enter your password. Where is this re-enter your password coming from? From the validate password. So if we now do 2222, it says your password don't match. Re-enter your password again. Let's do 2343. Your password don't match. You have three more attempts, 1122. You have two more attempts, 1111. You have one more attempt, and if this attempt we don't do it, our account is going to be in quotes locked. So 1122, your account is locked. If we do that correctly, let's say, let's just give some names here. And 1234, 1234. It says, welcome to instant banking with my bank. You have a fixed amount of 50,000, and now you have your menus. So you have to choose. Select the option you want: transfer funds, deposit, check balance, quit the program. Well, let's say we want to quit the program because we've not written the code for every other place. Once you press D, it would quit the program for you. Hope you get it at this point. Now, at this point, I am going to push this work now, this branch of code. If you type git branch on your terminal here, you're going to see that the branch is functions. We have to push this functions branch to GitHub. So to do that, I'm going to do git add. Should I push everything to GitHub now? Yes, I'm going to push everything to GitHub. So git add dot. Dot is going to push everything. Dot C is going to push all the C files to GitHub. But I also want to push this dot H, right? So git add dot H. Dot C does not match any specific files. Okay, so let's git add all for now, and then let's commit and here I'm going to say validate password function. All right, at this point, I'm going to be pushing to GitHub now. So git push, and it's going to give you this thing that you do not have upstream branch. Why? It is because the branch you are pushing to is a new one, not the main branch. So you always want to take care of this. To solve this problem, the good thing about Git is that for the most part, it will tell you what to do. So you just come here, copy this, paste it down, and when you push it the next time, it's done. Now let's go to GitHub now and see whether these things we have are really there or we've just been wasting our time. So here we go to GitHub back. All right, so far so good. We are here on our GitHub repository. And so let's go check it out. My bank. Let's see how many branches would have this time around. My bank. Okay, now you see we have two branches. The main branch had its push at this time, but let us go up. Go up now. You can see functions had recent pushes 1 minute ago. We are going to work on this later on, compare and pull requests. But for now, if you click on this drop down here and come here to functions, you're going to see our new branch where I just push the functions to GitHub. So let's say you can see this branch is one commit ahead of main, and let's see if our files are there. So you can see our files are here now. Create account is there, validate password is there, bwave.h is there, and the bank.c. Everything is available. All these pushes were done 2 minutes ago. Now you've started understanding better how to work with GitHub, how to work with README files, how to work with codes, how to work with functions. Imagine how much you would understand in the next 6 months to 1 year with Bwave ICT. All right. What's next? Let's continue now with creating more functions. So this is how we are going to do. This is called not just code, but coding style, coding pattern. We can go ahead and create a folder sef and call those folder functions, and create another one, call it header files, and then have the main.c, so that our code will be neatly, from top to bottom, arranged very well, like from top to bottom. But for now, just leave it like this. Remember, you can contribute on this project. Show the world that you've learned something here, and go ahead, push your own, do something unique, add it to this project. But for now, let's continue to do unique things, and back to my bank.c. Back to my bank.c, which means that I would go to the Ubuntu. So let's continue to write down our codes. My bank.c is here. All right. So we can now continue with our writing. What's the next function we want to define? Remember, we are working with functions, and we've just done two functions so far. The validate password and the create account password function. So what's the next function we want to look at? The next function we want to look at would have to be the first function to transfer funds. Alright, so let's add code to transfer money. We will not be adding the code here. We will be creating a function for that. Now you understand how to work with these things like a pro. So what would I call this one? I would call it transfer money. The names you give to your functions, to your variables are important. You cannot be naming your functions function I, function J. Naming all your variables int I, int J, int A, int B, int C in real world projects is going to be so difficult for someone to do it. Now, what's the advantage of this function? Anywhere you have problem now, you know which function to go to solve it. You don't go to the main function up and down. You just know where exactly you go to solve it. So the code to transfer money, I'm going to include bwave.h here because we'll call it later on. We'll add the prototype to bwave.h. So yeah, bwave.h. Now let's start writing our code to transfer money.
We put a lot of work into these videos to ensure that you're gaining maximally from it. And if you want to say thank you to the work we put in to ensure that you're benefiting and learning tech easily for free, then all you just have to do is hit the subscribe button, like, and share this video. Share this video on different groups, different platforms you are in. Like and subscribe to our channel to tell us thank you. We would appreciate.
Okay, so we were generous the last time and we gave everybody initials of 50,000 to transfer money. Now, what would we have in our this thing? Sorry, this is not the main function. So we'll have to I'm going to make this a void function. And let's say transfer money. Because it's a function that helps you to transfer money. Now, in this function, I'm going to be putting parameters because in each alert, in each transaction that we do, we want to do something else. We want to print a receipt for it. So it's not just enough to transfer money. We have to print receipt. So because of that, I will be having some variables. Now in my receipt will tell us the last transfer amount, that is, right? How much you transferred. So it would make our transfer money function a little more complex than the rest. But don't go too far, don't think too far. If you want to transfer money, what do? That's how to analyze thought process. You will need the account number, you will need the account name, you will need the account bank, you will need the bank, and then you will need the money you want to transfer. Those are the four things, right? That's how you start. So you ask for those four things: account name, account number, bank, and then the amount you want to transfer. So that's the next part of the code we are going to write. This thing that I just said, let's give it a fancy name. It's called pseudocode. That is your thought process. All right, so giving it that fancy name now, I'm just going to go to my notepad here, and we are going to say the next function we are going to write is this transfer money function.
How does the idea of learning software engineering from world-class software engineering pros feel like? People that are trained by Harvard University, University of People, International University, and from Silicon Valley trained institution. How does that idea sound? If it sounds good, then make sure you register for Bwave ICT software engineering training coming up from the 5th of June up until December. And then after that, we are giving you 6 months of internship so that by the time you're done, you would have everything you need to become a competent software engineer. What well? The knowledge of software engineering is worth knowing. We want you to know it well because at the end of the day, what matters is that you can prove yourself and not necessarily that you've gotten certificates. In Bwave ICT, we are giving you the proof and we are giving you proof of completion. Certificates from Harvard University recognized all over the world. Don't miss this opportunity. Send a message now to our WhatsApp.
So far I've already written some of the codes here, and let's go through it. So up here we're including this and this. Now we want to get account name, account number, bank, and then amount, right? So we want to get those details: account name, account number, bank, and then amount. So account name, scanf, account number, same thing, bank, same thing, amount, same thing. Now if amount that you want to transfer is greater than the value at the location of this variable called balance, and that value is 50,000. If the amount you want to transfer for your first time is greater than this amount, then you want to print in sufficient balance for the transfer. That's just all. Now, if that is not true, so if the amount is not greater than the balance, then you want to perform the transfer. Perform transfer operation up next. So here, good way to add the next this thing. And how do we do this? We assess the value at the balance, and then, all right. And next up, we work with this last transfer amount. Now, why are we using last transfer amount? Would now be equal to the current amount. What are these two things doing? The value at the balance. Remember, we want to update balance. Before, our balance was set to 50,000 without using a pointer. So if you were in my class when I did the pointer, how you can access or change the values at the memory location, that's what this pointer here does. So the balance, right, would be would minus it from the amount. So the current balance would be balance minus the amount. Do you get it? The previous balance was 50,000, but after the transfer, or to perform the transfer, we would say the balance should take away the amount that you have transferred away from the balance. So if you transfer 10,000, it's going to take out 10,000 from the balance, right? It's going to subtract 10,000 there. and update the value at the memory location of balance to be 40,000. That's why we have. And then this one, last transfer amount, originally is equal to 0. We are going to change it now to be equal to the amount you transferred. That's what these two things does there. Now, let's say we want to, after this thing, we want to print receipts with transaction details. So it's time to print the receipts with the transaction details, and to do that we use the print receipt function. I've not called that function, but would call it later. So by the time you transfer to someone, the alert you'll be receiving is a debit alert. So we'll put it there. Next, you want to get the account name of the person. You want to get the account number, because we'll need all of those. You could also want to get the bank and then the amount, then the balance, the current balance now, plus amount. And up next, we want to get the balance. This would you reuse in the print receipt function. So when we talk about the print receipt function, we'll talk about this again. After that, we want to leave. Now you can see here I put return, but not return 0 or return 1, because this is a void function. So it just returns out of the code. So this was our transfer money function. As always, we'll come to the bwave.h function header file, and then call that transfer money function that we've written before. So in the bwave.h, we are going to now say void, and then transfer money, because yes, we have to call it. So void and then transfer money function. Now the transfer money function would have this one of balance. Yeah, that's the parameter we pass into it. Great. At this point, we could start testing our code, but because of the print receipt function, if we test our code now, we may have some things here and there. But now let's, instead of test our code, let's go to the main.c, mybank.c, where we have our main function, and see how we can call it. So the code to transfer money, we've already gotten it. What's the next thing we want to do? Now this is where functions start to make sense. This is where functions start making sense to us. So already we've given the two things here. If you see in the last function I did a variable called last transfer amount. You will soon see why I'm adding last transfer amount, but here is 0.0. So by default, the last transfer amount will be 0 because you've not done any transfer. And it's also going to be a double. And here, let's go on. And now in this place where we say add code to transfer money, you want to just go and call your function that you've written. So that's why functions are very important. Rather than writing something big here, what do you want to do? Call the function. So transfer money, and then balance and last transfer amount. These are what we'll be calling in our functions now. So I know you may be wondering, why do we have and balance and last transfer amount? Okay, this is the explanation. That transfer money that you're seeing there, the first one, it's a call. So we have different things in function. Function declaration, function definition, function calling, function prototype. Those things we are doing in the bwave.h is function prototype. This one that we are doing here, where you're saying transfer money, this is function calling. Here, this whole thing is function calling. What we just did in the file transfermoney.c is the function definition and declaration. Now inside the calling, we are calling and balance. When you see and in C, you already know what and stands for. It allows you to access the memory location or the address of the variable. So here is saying we are this and balance is allowing us to access the address of the balance and the last transfer amount. Recall that I just explained seconds ago that what we are doing with those pointers there is to be able to change the value as the address of. So this is giving us the address of, and then the pointers is helping us change the values. That's why the address and the pointers work together. Memory is C and pointers works together. This is one of the topics that were explained in much more comprehensive details during the 6 months course where we'll be talking everything software engineering. Now, so that was the code to print out transactions. Just a little fix there in your bwave.h file, you want to ensure that you're calling the right function prototype. So double balance and then the double last transfer amounts. So a last transfer amount also has to be called. Did we spell it capital amount or small one? Let's go check out. So was it a capital amount or a small one? Last transfer amount, okay, so it was a capital A. And then you want to be careful of these small mistakes because the errors they will produce from it would be really big. All right, that settles it for our first function of the day. No time, let's go and get our second. Now you may be wondering, why did I not compile and run this code after doing this function like I did with the previous one? And let me show you the reason. If you note, I use the print receipt function, something I called but I've not yet defined. And if we run it now, we are going to get the implicit declaration. I write an undefined to the print receipt. So after writing the print receipt, we are going to come back and run everything. But the code for the logic for the transfer money has been gotten. After transferring, like if we go to my bank, we'll see that the next thing we have to do is to add code to deposit money using the shippers formula. Learn more about shippers, join shippers, click on my link and join. Okay, add code to deposit the money there. So deposit money means I'll call this one deposit money dot c. All right, in this one, we want to stdio.h. Now you're learning big things about functions, and this is one project that could really get you to the eyes of recruiters because this project involves everything, all the coding pattern. But more than anything else, this one teaches you how to code. When you start working with applications like Flask, Python, even JavaScript, React, you're now going to learn how to move things to folders they belong to, move them to files they belong to. So something that you're supposed to, or that you can do in one line, you have to move them to different places so that it can be structured properly. Because after now, look at how lengthy our functions are and how long they are. Imagine putting all of them in one place and you have a problem somewhere. You won't even know where the problem is coming from because it's too bulky. But this one that you're breaking it down, you can easily tell where the function is coming from for now. So double deposit amounts. No values for now because we want the user to do that. So this is going to be a void function and it's going to enter deposit amount. Okay, and then we'll use our scanf function to say %lf and deposit amount. That is, we want to store the deposit amount. So this is just to get it and store it. Now, so if the amount this person wants to deposit is less than or equal to 0, want to tell the person invalid deposit amount and return out of that function. So here return, and here let's say tell the person, so a printf statement will help us do that and say invalid deposit amount. Okay, and then a new line. All right, so if the amount is not less than 0, we want to say balance plus equals deposit amount. So what are we doing here? We are updating the value at the address of balance to add what the person deposited. So balance at the address of that. And then at the end of the day, we want to print receipt too. So a function that I would call later, but for now we want to print receipt, and that would be a credit alert. A credit alert. And for credit alerts, there are some of the things that are really not applicable, like the bank name, account number, account this, that we earlier stated. So for those things, I'm just putting a NA, not applicable there, right? So bank name, account name, and those ones are really not needed. So here we want to say balance minus deposit amount, and here we want to say balance. So this is our function to deposit. Very simple. But what we can do now is go call this function prototype. So I want to call this function prototype in the bwave.h. So I just copied it and boom, paste it down there. Deposit money is our next one. Right now, we'll go to the mybank.c after calling it here in the main.c file. And what we want to do now is just to call it. So we say here deposit money. We don't have to put the void, but I'm just going to come here and say and balance. So you already understand why. Deposit money. Remember, if you're following and you have any questions, check it out. Ask me on the comment section. I'll be willing to reply. Share this video, like the world says. Know that you can do fantastic things with C. Build real projects. Build the B's of things. Talking about something used to transfer deposits, one of the biggest apps you can build, and here you are. And then you can always get it from GitHub. So you can always come by, refer to this video, and you'll get it. All right, the next thing we want to do is check balance. Check the balance is the next one. So why not? So far, we've done the create account, validate password, deposit money, transfer money, check balance. Check balance is one of the simplest one. In fact, if you have understood anything that we are doing here now, go ahead, pause this video and try to do check balance. If you've not understood it, but after we wrote the code, you now understand it, that means that you're learning. Even if you can't, you're like confused as to what to do. After I write the code, if you understand what I did, then congratulations, you started really getting something here. So I'm going to create this one, and what better name than to call it check balance.c. Once again, this is easily the easiest one, and if all codes were this simple, um, everybody would have been a software engineer. All right, let's do bwave.h, and in here is going to be a void function. Check balance, very simple, just helps you to check what's your balance. That is, after you must have been done transacting up and down, you can check balance. Without having a receipt to check it for you, you can just check balance. So double balance. Okay, and in here, you want to say printf. Now, your current balance. So what was the default balance? That 50K. But by using those pointers and setting their values there, we can change the amount main from the value. And so when we ask for current balance in this code, we'll get the exact current balance, not that 50K that was there. So that's the work of the pointers doing its work for us. Since we are using a double, I'm going to use the percent 2f now, right? Percent 2f, and then put this thing here, and here let's say balance. All right, balance reminds me of one brand, Balenciaga. It's been a long time I saw someone with it. Balance. Anyways, let's move away from that brand, Balenciaga, and let's focus on balancing your knowledge on code. That's what we'll be doing for the next 6 months. And for the 1000th time, I'm inviting you to send a message and start your learning today. So, did you understand what we did here? Very simple, just a simple function to check balance. But now we can use it anywhere we need. And if you have a problem with checking balance, you know the function to go to, check balance. It's that simple. All right, my bank.c now. In this one, add code to check balance. It's pretty much ahead. What do? We call the function again. Same function that we have been calling every single day and night. It's what we'll now call here. Oops. I was trying to type while I was not in the set mode in VI. So these things happen a lot, again and again and again and again. Check balance. So what are we doing here? We'll say check balance. And then here is going to be balance. All right, and that's it. And in the last one, you want to quit the program. And in the case of defaults, so I forgot to add the default lastly. That is, if the user doesn't put any of this thing, you want to printf that invalid option. So invalid option, try again, and you want to ask the person to basically try again. All right, one more function to go. A function that will define our code, the print receipt function. So we've created account, validated password, check balance, deposited money, transfer money, all these things we are doing, are they in the bwave.h? So let's go back to our bwave.h. Oh. Are they there in the bwave.h? Good. You want to go to the void deposit money, transfer, validate. So this one will be called check balance. So check balance, you're going to now have double balance. Cool. Okay, one next is remaining. Print receipts. Okay, so print receipts. Let's go and see how are we going to be able to print receipts. You know, receipts comes like message, text message or email. I'm going to be printing receipts here. The receipt is not going to be on the terminal. Yes, let's print the receipt in a file where you can like save it, like you can like see the receipt you're printing. Let's make this worthwhile. So that is going to be our last this thing, print receipt function. So I'm going to create one and I'm going to call this print receipt.c. And here is where code goes. All right, so far so good. We've had some fine time. Let's take a 1 second break and we'll run our last function as we look to wrap up this. We're still in the process of writing our codes and our codes are making sense. But this print receipt should be a big test for us because we are printing receipt into another file. That's one of the practical use of pointers and then would have it. So far we've modified our codes too. The first code was working, but we created functions now in different files, created a new branch. We are pulling it, pushing it there. We are modifying it so that our code becomes much more readable. We are adding comments, we are adding things so that you can understand it. This is an important aspect of coding. I hope you're learning. Now, one thing we want to do is to print receipts. So, what do we need? The receipt should tell us the exact time of transactions. You agree with me that most alert messages does that. Tell us the exact time of transaction. Let us take our app one step further and our receipt will tell us the exact time of transactions. Meanwhile, as you can see on your screen there, we are Bwave ICT, always committed to ensuring that you're learning very well. Apart from the receipt telling us the exact time of our transactions, the receipt should give us all the transaction details. That is credit alert, debit alert. Is it a credit? Is it a debit? When the transaction took place, who we transferred to, so that in case somebody takes your phone, transfers, and somehow forgets to delete the receipt, you can just catch the person. Now, for each of our code, it should also tell us transaction was successful. So the receipt goes to a receipt file. Each of our code should also be able to do that. So these are what we are going to implement. No time to think much about it, but on your own, you're going to stay and think about implementing these things. Take your time again and again and again and again because the implementation is not really the easiest of things. With Bwave though, it's easy. So let's go and implement our receipts in C. Back to our terminal now, because if it's not the terminal, where else would it be? We leave for the terminal, by the way. Okay, so our codes, terminal, stdio.h, and to get the exact time, we are going to call a header file called time.h. So this one is going to help us get the exact time transactions took place. Now I'm going to call add this bwave.h And now this receipt function is going to be a void function. And so print receipt, print receipt. Okay, so there are some things that will be here. First is a const char, a pointer, and this one will tell us the transaction type. The next one will be a character too, and this one will tell us, I didn't spell this char correctly, and this one would be the account name. Doesn't end here. We have the const char again, and this one will be the account number. It doesn't end here. We'll have const char again, and this one would be the bank. Now, when you see the asterisks, don't get too scared. These are just so that we can modify the values at the address of these variables. Transaction types, account name, account numbers, bank, these are variables where we store things. Bank, apart from bank, what do we have? We would have the amount you transferred. We would have the previous balance. The previous balance which the person had. So previous balance would have the current balance. Current balance. Good. So those are the parameters our function will take. When you talk about void functions with parameters, so it's taking how many parameters? Let's do some counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So 7 parameters: current balance, previous balance, transaction type, is it a debit or a credit, account name, account number, and the bank. That is the bank you transferred to. The first thing we want to do now is to get current date and time everything took place. So current date and time where every transaction took place. Okay, so to do that, we are going to use something from the a data type. Now, data types are plenty. When you say int char, the only data types, no, we just mean that they are the only major data types. Now, this data type, time.c, we're setting this variable c equal to time. Now, this we are getting it from the time.h header file. You could do a search on the time.h. Next, we want to use a struct here, and it's going to be a time pointer to current time equal to local time. Here we're calling the local time, and then we just use the and t. So we're getting this from the time.h, and then now it's time for us to modify what we got from the time.h. So we want to format the date and time as a string. This data and time that we've received from here, the locals time, we want to put it back to in the received as a string. So we are going to declare a variable and call it date time, and it's going to take in 50 characters. Now we want to say strf. Now this is another function too from the type.h. So strf time, date time. So date time. And now we'll be using the size of operator here to get the date time. And let's format what we get now. So we'll use the %y percent m, percent d, and percent h. Hour, this would represent hour, this would represent minute m, and this will represent seconds. All right, and we'll pass in this variable here, current time, into it. Okay, so this would help us get the date time for all our transaction. So here would give us the year, the month, and the date. So 2023, the month, and the date. All this hash is exactly how it would get described. And then this percent y and m, you can see d, and the rest are all things that using the strf time, we can string format of time, we can get them there. All right, so let's go now. The next thing we want to do is open. Now, previously I said the receipts will be in another file. We are going to just print it in the terminal so that when you close, everything is gone. So we are going to be putting it in another file. And what's the work of pointers again? They help us to, you know, go into the address of something. So pointers will help us here. Using pointers and files in C, we'll be able to open a file that we have not even created. So we want to use append mode to open a file. How? Let's go ahead and do just that. So if the file is not equal to null, put simply, if the file exists, or if we are able to create the file, if our function is able to create the file, that is if the file is not equal to null, then in here we want to write transaction details in the file. So I can put here and say write transaction details to the receipts file. And that's how we do that. We use the fprintf to write into files, not the printf this time. We must call file first, and then these are what we'll be writing basically. One is going to be transaction details, just like this. And close it. So using the fprintf, we'll be able to write into files. This is the first one. Transaction type is the next thing we want to do here. Transaction type. Okay, the next thing we want to do is the accounts. So we can say it, transaction type, account name. So we are not getting it from the moon. We want to follow those parameters we've passed, account name. And this would be a percent %s because it will give us the account name. Transaction type 2 is also a percent %s because it's a string. Okay, account name. Then we're also going to get the account number. Account name will also be getting the account number. And this is also going to be percent %s. We'll be getting the bank next. So we say bank, and that's also going to be a string. The amount the person type sent, that's also going to be, now that's going to be a float. Amount, OMOUNT. So the amount is going to be a float because we said double there. So we'll do percent dot so f What else? Previous balance. And the previous balance is also going to be a float. So previous balance, and we can say percent to f again. Percent dot to f. What else can we do? Current balance. Current balance. Percent to f. So all are going to be floats too. And then we can also call dates. All right, so using dates, we are going to call something called date time. All right, date time, date of transaction. We are going to call it as a string. We are going to be doing that using date time. And at the end of the day, let's just put this regular things that transaction needs to carry. I don't know what it means. If you know, please do tell me this all of this, right? I think it's this down one. Mm. Mm-hmm. All right. All right. So I just put it there. So these are it. Now this is what happens in this if statement. If we are able to open a file, a receipt file, we are going to do this. But before we open it, we must tell this thing what we want to open in the first place. So I'm going to come here and write file using this keyword now, file. This is a file pointer to a file. Pointers are very important here because, I mean, we are opening something from memory, and from the computer's memory, we are going to create something into the computer's memory. So that's pointers. Now, we would name this receipt dot txt. The mode is going to be in append mode. Okay, so this would help us to create the file. It's going to open it. Now, when we open it, we want to write all of this inside here. If we are able to create this, so you can see what I call the file. If we are able to create it, then we write into all of this. So let's come here, end our if statement. So if that creation is complete, we end it. Now, when you open a file, you want to also close the file. Remember malloc and free? That's how you also want to close the file. So receipt file, we want to close the receipt file, and we use the f close. And what do we want to close there? This file that we code. So when we are done writing, we close it. And if everything was successful, we want to printf transaction successful, check the receipt.txt file for details. All right, you want to go ahead and also print this. And at the end of the day, that's all. Now, I'm not going to close my if statement here because if the file is open, we want to do all of this. So I'm going to come here, close my if statement at the end here. Let me indent this. Good. So everything is indented now and gives us our details. Do you have questions? Go ahead and ask. Now, this is something that most times people have not really explored in C. It's a big, big language, versatile. And I'm just doing this as just a basic project because we could take it and even implement real login, real sign up in C on the terminal here. But this gives you the idea of everything C can do, printf everything, access the memory location, work with it, right? So if everything is successful, we want to say print successful. That was our last function at the end of the day. Let me open it again because we have an unfinished business there. And what's the unfinished business? We have to get the prototype. So I'm going to copy all of this prototype, and now we can leave here for now. Hope that everything works out well. Come to our bwave.h file and paste everything we have so far and also leave here. So what have we done? We've gone ahead to create different functions for what we want. Check balance, create account, deposit money, print receipt, right? We've gone ahead to create functions for all of these. Transfer money, validate password. Some of the basic things you want any bank application to do. Now, let's go back to our print receipt function. Let's veer into print receipt.say, and in here now we have called a lot of things, %s, 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 but if you notice I'm not calling their data type. Remember in the printf, when you call the %s, you have to tell us what you want there. Well, it's same here at the end of the day. It's same. You have to tell us what you want. So because of that, we'll be putting it here. So transaction type. So we'd call this variable. Where are we getting the variable from? From up above. If you come up, if you look up here, you see transaction type. I can even copy it and paste. So it's not from magic where from the mon we are getting that variable as of that time. Yeah, transaction type, I just paste it. I can see account name, the next one. So I'll just copy it to account name. So what do we have there? Account name, %s, account name too. Account number, the same thing. We are going to copy it from up, paste it in there. So you can go ahead and do all of that for your own too. Account number, paste it in there. And what else can you do? Bank. You can copy the bank here. Okay, we've done that with the bank, right? Now we can now start working on the amounts. A dub will typically use the percent, use the long float LF. So let's do that. Or else Ubuntu terminal might complain for us that hey, why are you not using the LF? So anywhere you have double, just put LF. But if you're using any other terminal, not the Ubuntu, this one on GCC here on Ubuntu, you can go ahead and to work out fine. Okay, we need the previous balance, so we'll need to copy it to previous balance. Copy that and paste it. We'll also need the current balance. Copy that and paste it. Now we need the date. This one, we are going to use this one now, date time, right? We are going to copy this one, date time. So I'm going to write date time because that function gives us the balance. And then at the end of the day, this one last. Gotten that. So where are our finishing touches? As in any part of any project, you are going to have your finishing touches. When you're done, as you know, any project at all, anything, you have those finishing touches. It's important. So as a way to do the finishing touch, let's go ahead and do our finishing touch here, completing our project, the finishing touches as it were to this bank application. How do we know the finishing touch? We run our codes. Once we run our code, we are going to see if everything is correct. So how do you compile? you compile all the functions together except the bwave.h. So you're going to do GCC. What's the first function? Check balance, create account, deposit money. That's how you're going to do it. Print receipt, transfer money, validate password, then my bank.c. Now you can put all the output file into this one called bank, and you'll be done, right? So when we now put enter, you can see why we need finishing touches. So we have warning here. Print receipt still gives us a warning. And you can see that it's one small mistake, this small mistake. Instead of arrow CI, I just wrote arrow I. You can see that's giving us warning. Now we have something here. I'm not supposed to put a comma, I'm putting it. And then small mistakes like that. So here is our first money. In transfer money, we have a problem. In deposit money, we have another problem. In print receipts, we have a problem. So take note of this, especially as you're watching this video coding along. Although I'm going to put this code on GitHub and you can get the real code from there. But if you want to code along, take note of errors like this because you may have your own. And if you have your own, you can ask on the comment section. But I would love you to finish it, to sort out the problem yourself. So here, let's go to the print receipt.c. We have that one small issue. And where is that issue coming from? Transaction type. You can see it here. Transaction type. So I'm going to have to remove its transaction type. Now, some people use the set number to make their lives better. Oh, and now let me compile again. You can see that first error is out. Deposits in the function of transfer money and deposit money. Now we have problems. So let's go to deposit money. So I'm going to go to VI deposit money and see where how I wrote the print receipt. So you can see that in the print receipt, my spelling of receipt here was not correct. So I'm going to finish it. If you are coding with me, come back and ensure that you're getting it correctly. Apart from print receipt, apart from the deposit money, we have other ones. But in my pattern, if I solve one problem, I will recompile. I just want to see if that problem caused another problem or if everything is still correct. Now, in the print receipt, I thought I fixed it, but I didn't. So I will go back there now. And what would I do? Solve it. So that print receipt is finally gone. And if I recompile again, I have only one error, and that error is from transfer money in that function transfer money. So let's go to the transfer money.c and let's also attend to our friend here, print receipt. So print receipt has the E before the I and not otherwise. As part of our finishing touches, let's do this. Let's see. Finally, no errors whatsoever. Let's list out what we have. No errors whatsoever. You can see bank here looking at you, waiting for us. So what do? We run bank and start our coding. Finish. All right, so to run our file, we just do the /bank and welcome, create an account with us. Let's say Bwave ICT, enter your password 1234. Re-enter your password 1234. Now it says welcome to instant banking. You have a fixed amount of bank. What do we want to do first off? Let me first quit the program. Okay, so quitting the program is working. I want to start from bottom to top this time. So let's go again. Bwave ICT. Enter your password 1234. Re-enter 1234. Transfer fund deposit, check balance. Let me do C, check balance. It says your current balance is 50,000. Now, after doing C, that loop that we use would make it ask you again. The menu would repeat. So, do you want to transfer funds, deposit, or check balance? This time, let's say we want to deposit, which is D. So, deposit amount, and let's say 20,000. And it says transaction successful, check the receipt.txt file for details. So We've successfully transacted. Let's go and see if that money we deposited entered. So receipt.txt, and let's see. Transaction details, it's a credit alert, account name, not applicable, account number, not applicable, bank, not applicable, because it's like we deposited how much? 20,000. What was the previous balance? 50,000. What is the current balance? 70,000. Date 23 of May. I said 23 of May, 31st of May 2023. And look at the time, about 3:16 and 39 seconds that transaction came in. This is in a file. It's in a file. So you can come here, get this file. You can upload this code to GitHub. You can download your receipts files. This is really, really, really wonderful. Let's go again. And this time we are going to our names are going to be Bwave ICT. Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. What do we want to do? We've deposited, we've checked balance. Let us transfer funds, enter recipient's name. I'm going to say we are doing so, let's say Debbie, and enter recipient account number. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. Enter bank name, and let's say First Bank. Enter transfer amount, and I'm feeling generous right now, so let me give like 49 of the total amount we have, 49,000. And it says transaction successful, check the receipts txt file for details. Now before I go and check the receipts file, is there anything you can do here? You can see that everything is like jam packed. Maybe you can add more new lines, but that would be on you. Yes, on you. Add new lines, and I will show you how to contribute right now to this project. Get your name on this project. Push this project. It may just be one of the projects that would help recruiters spot you out. Now, recruiters are not going to spot you out because you built a Twitter clone. Note that. They are not going to spot you out because you built a Facebook clone. The reason is because there are way too many videos out there where people can copy and paste and build those clones. Something unique will get you to where you want to be. But most importantly of all, something unique will teach you unique things that will help you do unique things. This receipt.txt file spelling is not correct. You can try to correct it. Is there any other thing that you think? Now let's check balance. They say your balance is 1,000. From that 50 is 1,000. I'm going to not end this thing. I'm going to deposit funds, and I'm going to deposit the exact amount. So let's go and deposit 200,000. And it says transaction successful. Now imagine in your bank you were just able to deposit any amount you like, anything. Life would have been way, way easy. And yes, I'm building a bank app that is easy for you. Why not? So at this point, we can transfer funds again. Let's transfer funds, account name, and let's say we are transferring funds to Daniel this time. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is 9, and 0 is the account number. Enter recipient bank name, and let's say his bank name is code. Um, Code is June 5th. Yeah, and that's the code for when our class starts. It's something you shouldn't miss at this point. Enter transfer amount, and let's say we are transferring 100,000 to Daniel. Let us check our balance again, and we see that our balance is now 101,000. We can do this on and on and on and on and on and on and have fun here. But let's quit this program. Let's look at the receipts.txt file again and see what we have there. And in our receipt.txt file, you can see we have plenty transactions already looking at us here. So you can see the first transaction we took that time had this ending in. Say the second transaction was a debit alert, and we transferred 49,000. See the account name, see the account number. The next one was a credit alert where we deposited 200,000, and the last one was a debit alert too. So if we scroll down, debit alert, we can see this person who paid to this account name and account number, and it's for the training starting on June 5th, and we can see the previous balance and the current balance and everything. This has been a blast. It's the finishing touch of our bank application, something that is really, really wonderful. I'm so excited to have started and finished this project with you, but we are not done. You are not done until you do this: add, commit, and push back to GitHub. So we'll be pushing everything back to our GitHub. Now, git commit -m, and what should we push it to the same branch? Yeah, let's push it to the functions branch. And let's say bank completed. Should you ever use bank completed? Your goal is to always kind of improve on things. And so maybe we should say another commit message would be like um, more functions, right? On this one, more functions. And let's like push this now. So git push. At the end of the day, we're sending this now to the functions branch. So you can see the branch functions. Shall we go to GitHub? Of course we shall. And so let's go there, GitHub, our next bus stop. All right, this is our fantastic bus stop, GitHub. Let's see what we have here. I'm going to refresh this, and by the time we refresh this, you can see all our functions are here. All our functions are here. All right, guys, that's the completion of our project. I hope you did learn a whole lot. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, drop them in the drop them on the comment section here. And we are inviting you to come learn software engineering once again from Bwave ICT. We are the easy way to learn and understand software engineering. I hope to see you in class. Until then, stay safe. And from me, until next time, it's goodbye.